The World War I is the result of the competition between the capitalist countries to gain control over the land, resources, raw material, and colonies for the expansion of capitalism. And the humanity had to pay a very heavy price. It is estimated that in the World War I, nearly 20 million people perished. The impact of this Second World War, which killed 75 million people, how Europe had to rebuild itself. Friends and comrades, a very good morning to all of you. The past few days have been really troubling for Indian democracy and what we take pride in calling our society a diverse society. We have seen the brutal killing in Lakhimpur, targeted killing of minorities in Kashmir, and we have also seen the violence against interfaith and intercaste couples. But what is more disturbing is that the democratic institutions in this country, and more importantly, the law and order machinery, rather than displaying their loyalty to the constitution, have become slaves to the government in power. This is agitating me, and I'm sure you're also agitated with these developments. Last week, we tried to understand why the economic depression took place. We analyzed the reasons. We also analyzed the human impact of that crisis, and we came to conclusion that the manner in which capitalism operates, crisis is inherent in the system. Last week we also decided that we need to at least very briefly look at certain situations that came about earlier to this Great Depression, or in the process of the economic crisis that was brought about by the Great Depression. It may be a bit of history, but history always has lessons for the present, and we try to relate to those developments to what is happening today. Before the Great Depression, the world also witnessed the World War I. The World War I is the result of the competition between the capitalist countries to gain control over the land, resources, raw material, and colonies for the expansion of capitalism. And the humanity had to pay a very heavy price. It is estimated that in the World War I, nearly 20 million people perished, both soldiers and the civilians. Now, the economic hardship that was brought about by the World War One saw the workers coming out onto the street for struggles, workers agitating because their living standards were totally demolished. The unemployment had risen to unimaginable levels. And we saw a phenomena in 1920 when the Italian workers occupied the factories, saying that these are the centers of the workers' exploitation and we will capture these factories. And as a result of that, the capitalism had to counter the growing agitation of the working class. And fascism came as a response to the economic crisis and as a response to the growing struggles of the working class. Now, we found that the first fascist takeover of a state came about in Italy in 1922 when Mussolini galvanized the people and revolted against the king. And the king, knowing that it will be extremely difficult for him to hold back, legally allowed Mussolini to take power in Italy. Now, what is this fascist forces that we call as? They are a combination of industrialists, aristocrats, and the lower middle classes. And the fascism gave a new ideology. And it was based on extreme nationalism, racial purity, and promised economic prosperity. And there were quite a lot of people, including sections of the working people, who were overwhelmed by this promise by fascism that they will revive the economy, they will revive the national pride, and therefore the support gathered. And Italy became a truly fascist state. Along with that, we also saw in Germany that it was a big loser in the World War One, and a treaty which is called as Versailles Treaty was imposed on Germany by the winners of the World War One. The terms of this treaty angered the vast majority of the Germans, and the kind of economic deprivation, economic problems that were coming up, the people were looking for an alternative. At that time, Hitler emerged. He, as Mussolini, promised that Germany is overcrowded. And if he comes to power, he will expand Germany by annexing Eastern Europe and Russia. And this promise of economic prosperity, this promise of restoring the national pride, and along with that, the promise for expansion of the national territories created a situation where vast sections of the German population accepted this fascist ideology. And for the fascist ideology to work, For all the ills of the economy, for all the ills of the society, you also had to find somebody to blame. And in Germany, Hitler found Jews as the perpetrators of all that is not well in the German society. He said Germany racial purity is polluted because of these Jews. The pure Aryan race of Germany was polluted, and moreover, the manner in which the Jews have been operating, they are to be blamed for all the economic and the social miseries of the entire German people as a whole. And as a result, the horrors of fascism is too well known. And the intention here is not to discuss the fascism, but the intention is how it led to certain restructuring of the economic policies. Now, it is estimated that close to 6 million Jews were exterminated in Germany. And when these developments were taking place, fascism was occupying a very prominent place in Europe. There was also the emergence of the working class struggle and the inspiration that the working class derived from the establishment of the first working class state in the Russia, which later became the Soviet Union in 1917. Now, how did this Russian revolution came about? That is a matter that needs to be discussed, and it would take quite a lot of time, and it's a matter for a separate discussion itself. But basically, the motivation came from the Marxist ideology. The Marx, the German philosopher, along with his friend Engels, they studied the society. They studied how the politics and the economic operates. And they came to the conclusion that all written history is a history of class struggle. In a society, there are two dominant classes whose economic and social interests are always conflicting, and these two classes, as Marx analyzed, is one class which is dominating the economy, the politics, because they control capital, was the capitalist class, and it owns the means of production. The second class is a vast number in the society who is called as the working class, who have nothing except their labor to be sold. And in the process of production, a capitalist never pays the worker the value that he creates, and that results into exploitation. When that results into exploitation, the capitalist accumulation takes place. And when the capital accumulation takes place, it also results into huge concentration of capital, and capitalism says that competition is good, but competition is the big fish eating the small fish. And ultimately, competition eliminates competition, and that results into huge growth of monopolies. So, Marx and Engels, through their work, said if the working class has to end this exploitation, they have to change the society. They have to bring about a social transformation. And the working class is the most revolutionary class which is capable of bringing about this social transformation. And the developments in Russia, the first working class state, which promised that all basic needs will be guaranteed by the state, the education, the food, the clothing, the housing, that created a whole lot of enthusiasm, and the October Revolution of 1917 was an inspiration for struggle across Europe. Now the capitalists had to decide how to counter this. And to counter this, in the US, to overcome this Great Depression, President Roosevelt, he introduced a New Deal. And the New Deal, in a very simple terms, if I had to tell you, it said that the total freedom for the market is not healthy. What you call as that laissez-faire, the total freedom to the market will create social conflicts because the benefit will flow only to a section of the people while the vast majority is deprived of that. So, as a counter to that, the New Deal said the government has to intervene. The government has to intervene to give certain concessions to the poorer sections of the people. The government must play a dominant role in the economy, and it must regulate the economy so that the social conflicts can be arrested. And then in Europe, Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, became a very prominent economist. And he said that the neoclassical economics is no longer relevant. The kind of deprivation the people are having, that can be overcome by the government becoming a dominant player in the economy. The government must ensure the demand in the economy, and that demand in the economy can be created by the government working for total employment. And this, in fact, was a counter to the neoclassical economy or economic liberalism, which we had studied in the first chapter of this series when we studied Adam Smith. And that changed the economic direction when the government started regulating the economy and the governments became dominant. So in between, the Second World War took place, and in the next week we will study the impact of this Second World War, which killed 75 million people, how Europe had to rebuild itself and how the world economy had to reorganize itself. This we will discuss next week. Till then, be safe, take care, goodbye. Thank you for so patiently listening.